I do feel it's not enough.
Yeah.
It's not enough. Yeah.
You are saying all of this, and again, I'm more interested. You are talking about systemic change, and I know. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to Parenthoot Spotlight, the space where we shine a light on the incredible people shaping the world of parenting, caregiving, and childhood. If you're here for the first time, I'm Neha, your host, and I couldn't be more grateful to have you join me on this journey. Today's conversation is one that is both deeply emotional and incredibly important. We are talking about adoption in India, what it looks like, why it's so complex, and most importantly, the thousands of children waiting for a place to truly call home. I have with me someone who has been working tirelessly to change the adoption landscape in India. Meera, the CEO and co-founder of Where Are India's Children. If you haven't heard of WAIC, let me tell you, their work is nothing short of extraordinary. Meera and her team are on the ground doing what most people assume happens automatically, ensuring that children in institutional care who are eligible for adoption actually reach the legal adoption pool. It sounds straightforward, but in reality, the system is riddled with inefficiencies, delays, and heartbreaking gaps. WAIC is doing technology enabled fieldwork to identify children who have the legal right to be adopted but are lost in the system. They also work on policy advocacy, pushing for reforms in the Juvenile Justice Act to make adoption a more accessible and streamlined process. And then there's their Safe Surrender campaign, a powerful initiative that educates and enables parents in crisis to safely surrender a child instead of abandoning them. Because far too many infants are found in unsafe, heartbreaking conditions. Meera's work is heavy, urgent, and full of hope and frustration. And yet, she does it with such clarity and determination, always keeping the best interests of the child at the center. Adoption is often seen as a beautiful, heartwarming story, and while it absolutely can be, there are layers to it that we don't talk about enough. Why do so few children get adopted in India despite there being thousands in institutional care? What does the process look like for prospective parents? What myths and biases hold us back as a society? That's exactly what we are diving into today. So let's get right into it. Meera, welcome to Parenthoot Spotlight.
Thank you so much, Neha. Thank you for having me here. My pleasure.
I just want to start right from the beginning. What led you to start Where Are India's Children? Was there a specific moment or story that sparked this mission?
Um, I wouldn't say there was a specific moment for WIC to start. The start of my journey into the adoption space as an adoption coach, as a counselor, and I've said this before, has started with a chance conversation with my son, whom we adopted 18 years back. And I have two children, one bio, one through adoption. And we were having a deep conversation about, he wanted to ask about his birth parents. He was thinking about, meeting them after he turns 18. How do we do it? So he had a lot of questions, which I thought I handled very well
Mhm.
in terms of, the support I was giving him. And so I think over the period of 2 days, once we had this conversation, he was super thrilled with himself and with me that the conversation had gone well. And I think that's when my the coaching I used to do. I'm a certified coach. I'm an ICF certified associate coach. I used to coach, executives. I used to coach parenting, parents of adolescents, teenage, etc. I decided to become an adoption coach.
Right.
So where I thought my experience with what I have learned with my son, and various other parents I've spoken to, they could be, adopted or not, right? That sparked my curiosity to explore the adoption space and see what else is there in this space.
Right.
By then, by the time our son turned, today he's 18. When I
Hmm.
had this conversation, it was about 10 years back. But I think the adoption ecosystem had changed completely. So I
Right.
had to learn what it was, the Juvenile Justice Act, what it entails to, register. So all that was a very, very exciting and new learning for me. And that's when I joined another NGO, which was certifying counselors for
Yeah.
adoption, right?
Right.
They used to give us a test. You have to answer all the questions on Juvenile Justice Act and how will you deal with prospective parents, what challenges how can you address. So it was a full certification program I did. And that's where I met Smriti and Pratima, my
Yeah.
other two co-founders. You talked about Meera's work. I can't take the entire credit myself. There's a big team out there who do the real work. I'm just a facilitator and just a guide, from behind. Most of the work is done by those people, and extremely hardworking, and passionate and dedicated folks we have. I met Pratima and Smriti, and what happened was, I think when we would counsel parents, the first thing they would ask is, and at that time, this was in 2017 or so, they would ask, why is the wait time so long? And at
Right.
that time, it was 2 years,
Yeah.
right? Close to 2 years to bring home a baby, let's say 0 to 2 years. And they would ask that question. And I think that sparked something in Smriti and Pratima to, say that we should do something about that. And that's where they started the campaign, which was called Where Are India's Children? It
Okay.
was a digital campaign that started in 2018 July.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a group of the counselors, and in that they had put a ask that they're starting this campaign and described what the campaign was about. And they wanted volunteers, and I was the first volunteer.
Ah,
I didn't bat an eyelid when I saw that. I said yes, because I think this is what the system needs, right? Um, and that's where that digital campaign was about 6 months long, not 6 months, from July to November 14th.
yeah.
We ended it on 14th. The digital campaign was supposed to send messages to the district stakeholders, the
Mm-hmm.
district child protection unit, the child welfare committees, and even in fact, if we got the email address of a minister, of women and child development, we drafted messages for all of them. And we collected email addresses for all of these people, their handles, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. So it was a very structured campaign where we said we have to have people send these campaigns. So
Yeah.
the campaign was not just us sending these messages. We wanted people to do that on 14th November, Children's Day, so that somebody wakes up and says, "Okay, this is a real problem."
Yeah.
Well, three of us were not very known people. We were just three adoptive mothers coming together. But I think about 1,200 people actually sent messages.
Wow.
And we also sent an open letter to the Honorable Prime Minister, Narendra Modi ji, at that time. But we didn't want to stop there.
Yeah.
What is next, right? The digital campaign, yes, we sent it, but then we decided to take forward the movement, and that's when we started WIC in July. I was doing a little bit of coaching. Corporates used to ask me, parents used to ask me. I kind of continued that for a bit, but from July onwards, it was kind of full time,
Yeah.
and I jumped into WIC. I think the spark is only this, right? Three of us have seen what it does when a child is brought home through adoption, what
Yeah.
it does for the child, right? It's transformative. And it was transformative for me too
Mm.
when I brought home the child, right? So I think we wanted more children to have that.
Yeah.
And when we did research, we did a lot of research.
Mm.
2019, 2020, we did research with the permission of Maharashtra WCD. And we did research which said that there are children in institutional care who are eligible for adoption,
Yeah.
but they're not brought into the pool because people don't know how to. People think, their mindset says above 6 years, nobody will adopt. So there's so many other myths which followed this whole practice. So that's when we said we have to do something different, right?
Yeah.
Which was not being done in the system. And
Yeah.
we want a systemic change. So we have to work with the government. And that's the harder part. But we wanted a systemic change because WIC will be here today, tomorrow we might not, but
Yeah.
who will carry on the work, right? So it has to be in the system.
Yeah.
And to, I think, a large extent, we feel we have done that. We can talk more about it. But
Yeah.
that is the story of how I came about into WIC. And I took over as the CEO about 2.5 years back
Yeah.
from Smriti. And it has been a very exciting journey, but it's also a roller coaster. There are humps, bumps, everything, but it has been a wonderful, and I think it's a very meaningful and purposeful
Yeah.
work, right? So there is a larger outcome, a longer outcome we want for these children.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
so it's very interesting you talk about it, and you being an adoptive mother yourself, Meera. I think that makes all the difference, because that kind of
Yes.
empathy stems from the very, very beginning, so to say.
Yes.
And let's talk about the adoption landscape in India. What are some of the key characteristics of the adoption landscape in India today, as we stand, if you could touch upon that.
Sure, sure. So essentially, there is a Central Adoption Resource Authority. It's a nodal body. It's a regulatory body which sits in New Delhi, and they are the gatekeepers of adoption, if
Right.
you will, right?
Yeah.
So they form the rules, the regulations, and they monitor children coming into the pool. They run a portal called Carings, which is a Central Adoption Resource Information Guidance System. And this system is where a child gets into when they go into the pool, and a prospective parent also has to register.
Yeah.
So they are the developer of that. So they maintain that portal called Carings, and this regulatory body, what it does is it regulates,
Yeah.
right? It regulates, and it, unfortunately, that is the power given to them.
Mm-hmm.
They can't force the states which are responsible. The state women and child development department is responsible to put children into the adoption pool,
Yeah.
because they are working at the state, right? Because children are living in institutions in states. So they are the regulatory body. And what they have done today, though, is, I think, thankfully, through Supreme Court orders, and well, we'll take some credit, pushing them to look at the adoption ecosystem. We are a knowledge partner of CARA. So pushing them to look at the system with different eyes, right?
Yeah.
Because today there are 35,000 parents waiting
Yeah.
to adopt. And this year or last year, yes, the adoptions have increased to 4,000. But even today, there are barely 2,300 children in the adoption pool, right?
Yeah.
Which is, considering that we are a country, with maybe about, at least I feel, so many children out there in the institutions. A UNICEF report, I think at some point, 2017 or so, pegged the number of destitute and abandoned children in India to 3 crores,
Wow.
right? And we estimate the number of children in shelters, it's coming down now, is probably somewhere between 3 to 3.5 lakhs.
Yeah.
Okay, so we wanted to see, and a report from WCD itself said at some point that, 2018, 2019, they released a report that 50,000 to 1 lakh children of these 3.5 lakhs to 4 lakhs could be made adoptable. So why are we not doing it, right?
Right.
That begged the question as to why we are not doing it. And when we did the Pune shelter research, we kind of found very systemic problems, and a lot of these systemic problems still exist.
Hmm.
Okay, so today Kara is doing a lot of work in identifying children for adoption evaluation. They've created different categories, which is basically the language we created when we started in 2019. They call child with unfit guardians, no visitation, etc. They have taken that. They've taken that thanks to the Supreme Court order in November of 2023. And they are pushing the states to do better,
Yeah.
right? And this is specifically for older children adoption,
Yeah.
because at some point, and even today, we deal with that mindset that the CWC, or the Child Welfare Committee, are the gatekeepers for the children in shelters. That is, they are the decision makers for these children. If
Yeah.
they don't believe that this child, a particular child, should go into adoption because they're 10 years old, 11 years old, they will give different reasons not to evaluate this child. And
Hmm.
that is a problem, right?
Yeah.
That's a mindset problem.
Yeah.
And the district child protection unit, who has to work and ensure that these children reach the pool after the child welfare committee gives the order for adoption, also does not have the same mindset. So
Right.
we are working with multiple systemic changes we want to. First is use of technology, right? Now Kara has, there is a big portal called Mission Vatsalya, and they use this portal to record every child in the system. When we started, believe you me, there was no system to record or to uh, even have a count of how many children are there in a state.
Right.
It was just an estimate.
Hmm.
So we said technology has to be in the forefront, right?
Yeah.
You have to digitize these children's records, categorize them, right?
Yeah.
Because not all of them will come into the pool, but we
Yeah.
have to categorize them.
Yeah.
And that, I think, we've succeeded today. And
Mm-hmm.
today, because of the partnership with Kara, they've said all children needs to be categorized in particularly 5 categories, and most states are doing that. Though there is a lot of confusion as to which category, how to put them, etc. And we do trainings to Kara. We do online refresher trainings. They're called. But so today, when we look at it, it's far far better than what it was a couple of years back.
Right.
Right? I think we are moving in the right direction, but there is still a dearth of monitoring in the whole adoption ecosystem,
Right.
right? So who will monitor that? Okay, you've identified these children for adoption, but
Hmm.
who is going to monitor that they are coming into the pool in the prescribed timelines of the JJR?
Hmm. Yeah.
So monitoring is something which needs to happen, and this needs to happen at the state level constantly. But then the district child protection unit has other responsibilities. So adoption is generally given the lowest priority.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
Okay. The reason being, I think I have to add there
yeah.
that we all think, and it's as a society, I think we've come to think of it like this, that, well, they have food, shelter, and a bit of education. What
Hmm.
else do these children need? So nobody is looking at a child's right to family.
Yeah.
Right? And that is what we are trying to change.
Yeah.
I think it is changing, but we have a long, long way to go
Hmm.
before it becomes a practice,
Yeah.
right? You should not need a CARA or a WIC to intervene and say put these children in adoption.
Yeah.
That is where we need to get, right? Because today, if you look at a child labor or a child marriage, child rescue, you don't wait for somebody else to come and say, okay, we'll rescue the child. You go there and rescue,
Yeah.
right? I think it has to become second nature to do this work as well. But
Yeah.
this is prioritized very low on a district child protection unit's list of activities, and I don't blame them. They have their hands full, and they have a lot of other activities, a lot of other tasks they have to do, and nobody is saying please look at adoption first.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody is saying that, right? So it depends upon the bureaucrat who's sitting at that time.
Yeah.
So, but it is improved. I should not,
Yeah.
this thing about, no, lie about that. It has improved quite a bit because Kara has now shifted its focus. It is working with the states, identifying children for adoption evaluation, but they can't do anything. That means they can just identify.
Right.
The
Right.
state still has to do all the process, which
Yeah.
puts the child in the adoption pool.
Yeah.
So I think there's been a lot of improvement, lot of talk about adoption, I think in mainstream circles as well.
Yeah.
And I am sincerely hoping, I wait to see the day when it really flows as a systemic change and technology is being used better, right? Though we see if every childcare institution in India starts using a system which is centralized,
Hmm.
right? And updates and enters data in the system constantly, consistently, that's when you will see that, okay, this is a change. And who
Yeah.
will train the childcare institute? Somebody has to train these people that, look, this is your job. Your
Yeah.
job is not only to take care of the children, which is
Right.
great, but it
Yeah.
is also to say that they are here, make them visible to the authorities.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So, what
So
I'm
please
very
share.
interested about, Meera, is you talked about the systemic change, but let's talk about one child. What I want to know what the process looks like for that child from the time the child enters a home, shelter home, to being legally declared adoptable and then actually being in the adoption pool. What's
Okay.
that like?
Yes. So the way the Juvenile Justice Act has defined these children eligible for adoption is it was OAS children. They were called orphan, abandoned, surrendered children.
Okay.
Okay. Now Kara has added two more categories to it, which is something which, as I said, with our inputs, is a no visitation and
Mhm.
children with unfit guardians and parents.
Right.
Okay. So what happens is, let's say, for example, there is an orphaned or abandoned child. The process is same for these two categories. So as you mentioned, let's say a child is found abandoned, or mostly what happens, there is a fine line between a missing child and an abandoned child. An
Yeah.
abandoned baby is different. A baby can't walk anywhere and come. So we know clearly that the baby has been abandoned. Right.
Right.
So there's an abandoned a child, and let's say the child is admitted to this child care institution. So what happens? The first thing the child welfare committee has to do is see the child in the first 24 hours of admission. So
Right.
generally, the child is rescued by Childline. Childline is the 1098. You might have heard of it. So
Yeah.
they rescue children. So they are rescued by Childline. So if you look at it, most children who are a little older are mostly found in railway stations. So that's why the railway Childline is a big thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So when they're brought before this child welfare committee, if the child is an infant, of course, we don't know, right? The infant can't talk. Then there's a separate process. But if the child is a little older, and they can maybe tell their parents' name, okay, there's some shop near my house or something like that, then the order of the child welfare committee becomes something like do a spot inquiry.
Hmm.
Take the child where the child was found and see if the child recognizes or somebody recognizes the child, right? So it becomes that. And if they can't find anybody, they bring the child back to the childcare institution, CCI they are called. And if the child is an infant, so the abandoned process is the same for both an older child and an infant, right?
Okay.
So first thing, the CWC, the Child Welfare Committee, has to give an order for a paper publication
Okay.
saying that this child was found here. Does anybody want to claim this child, etc. The child's picture is put in a newspaper and all that is done. And where the child is right now, a phone number is given. That is one. And they also give an order for a non-traceability report from the police.
Okay.
Okay. That means the police have to investigate whether
Yeah.
there are parents for these children or guardians, or they have to do their own inquiry.
Yeah.
Okay. And the third, in some states, they also do a Doordarshan notification.
Okay.
So they put it out on TV saying that this child was found here. Anybody claiming them, please call this number. Same as the newspaper notification, but on Doordarshan. So there
Right.
are audio visual, processes which are done. And after a certain timeline, so a newspaper publication, well, you can't wait for a long time. So 30 days is a period of waiting for a newspaper publication. Same for Doordarshan notification. And a police report needs to be done between 2 to 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
The law also says if the police is not giving the report, then consider it deemed given.
Okay.
Okay. But most CWCs and the district child protection units do not do that. They want to wait for the police report because they don't want liability,
Right.
right? They don't want to again become liable that you put the child. After this, the Child Welfare Committee declares the child what is called legally free for adoption.
Okay.
It's called LFA. So they sign a certificate.
Right.
4 members of the Child Welfare Committee, they constitute a bench of 5 people. So they will sign a certificate saying this child was found. So they will essentially write that this child was abandoned, we did the due process, and nobody was found, and here is the paperwork, and declare the child legally free for adoption. After that, and between when the process is happening, the district child protection unit or if there is an infant, it is the specialized adoption agency. They have to do a certain process called the child study report and
Yeah.
a medical examination report. So the child study report is essentially talking about, what the child is doing. Does the child, okay, for the infants, it will be, does the child smile, turn your this thing, does it respond to strangers, all that. For an older child, it will also be about schools. Do they go to school? How is their IQ? What languages do they speak? So there are a lot of other things they have to write. Okay. And if the child has some fears, phobias, they're supposed to write that
Mhm.
also, so that the parent knows everything about the child, right?
Right.
And the medical examination report is a detailed report about the medical record of the child. Any ailments the child has, if the child is a special needs child, what is the special need the child has. So there are a whole bunch of information that needs to be given in the what is called the MER, medical examination report. So they have to prepare this, and all these three documents have to be uploaded to the Carings portal.
Got
And
it.
then the child is ready to be referred to a parent. So
Right.
when I say refer to a parent, whoever has matching preferences like the child who's been put, then they are and who is first on the list,
Right.
then they are matched. So
Right.
this is a process for one category, I'm telling you. So every category has a process,
Right.
right? You can't just say that, okay, this child is eligible and okay, we put the child. There is a due diligence to be done so that nobody claims this child at some other point in time.
Right. Right.
Right? And the records are clear that this child is legally free to be adoptable.
Right, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you work with so many parents. You have worked with so many parents and parents who want to adopt,
Yes.
prospective adoptive parents, I think they're called.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Yes.
so what would you say are there some common misconceptions about adoption in India, generally in the market?
Um, yes, of course. I think wherever there is something like see, adoption for us, it was not a big thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I wanted to adopt, and this was like I think I was in my probably mid 20s, and at some reason I said I want to adopt, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we kept moving countries, and we couldn't adopt, so we had a bio child in between. And then when we moved back to India, I said I'm adopting, right? So um, it has to be a fairly how do you call? It's a very instinctive decision. You can't have second thoughts about adoption,
Right.
right? Once you start having second thoughts about adoption, you'll have lot of these myths,
Yeah.
right? So common myths, and I'm saying it on a public platform, but
Yeah.
common myths are supported by the Indian movies.
Mm.
Bollywood movies support a lot of these common myths,
Yeah.
right? A murderer son or daughter will become a murderer. A criminal son will become a criminal, though
Mm.
adopted. How is it? It's not real. It's not real, right? So those are some of the myths. And I've been asked this in a panel discussion, and this lady said, and I actually was, I think, very upset. And I told her, "You're seeing a lot of Bollywood movies," and I actually told her, "You're not ready to adopt."
Mm-hmm.
Because she said, "What do I know? That father must be a criminal, mother must be a murderer. How can I adopt?" Then you're not ready to adopt. If
Right.
you have those thoughts, you're not ready to adopt. So those are some myths. The other myth is, of course, genes. You
Hmm.
know, what happens, genetic traits, if they
Yeah.
have any diseases,
Yeah.
right? We can develop new diseases. You have a birth child, that child can develop new diseases. Nobody's stopping, right?
Yeah.
So those are some of the myths. And I think the other myth is definitely about what will the society say,
Yeah.
right? Will they think I can't have children? And
Mm-hmm.
that's why I'm adopting, right?
Mm.
And yes, there are some stories or some, I won't say some, largely there are parents who have undergone a lot of trouble having their own children and then resort to adoption. There is no doubt about that. Resort to adoption as maybe the last parenting
Yeah.
choice,
Yeah.
right? There are parents like that, and I respect that you have at least chosen adoption after trying everything, right? But I think the society also has to look at adoption as the first parenting choice,
Right.
right? Why can't we do that?
Yeah.
And believe it or not, even when I had my daughter, who's older, and then we adopted, they said, "Oh, you can't have another child. It
Mm.
doesn't matter that you had one child before." So people will ask. People will ask whatever they have to ask, and there are a lot of this myths. So I had a parent who said, "I'll adopt," and this parent was adopting a 12-year-old. They
Mm.
said, we will move places, we will get transferred, we'll go to a remote location, and then, we'll raise the child. I said, What do you mean? You can't keep the child locked up.
Yeah.
You're not ready for adoption either, because your idea of adoption is people should not know.
Right. Right.
How is it possible? You can't really, put the child in a cupboard and lock them up and not let them. So that's the wrong notion, right? And
Right.
one parent who wanted to adopt an infant said, "We'll go away for 9 months and come back."
Oh,
Then they will think that it is our own child, right?
right.
So some of the myths, definitely, I think, and I say it again, I think the Bollywood movies have really done a bad job about adoption. Apna khoon khoon hota hai. Even today, I think they do that. There's so
Yeah.
many inane dialogues which says that, things like that. I think we have to stop that. I think we have
Yeah.
to be sensitive to children who are, who have been adopted. Um, so I think a lot of myths around the fact that will this child grow up to be how I raised them, or
Yeah.
will they take on their genetic traits?
Yeah.
I look at nurture or nature. What do
Hmm.
you think? And I have seen, and with my own experience, I think nurture is by far the best.
Right.
You nurture the child in the way you want. You give the values what you think are the
Yeah.
best,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I'm proud to say, I think my son takes after me in every bit, right? Every which way. And my
Yeah.
husband is, of course, sometimes puzzled. How did this happen? But that is the power of parenting,
Right.
right? So
Right.
can a parent really forget everything and say, I want to be a parent and adopt?
Mm.
And you need that confidence. You need that, this thing that nobody can do anything. This is my child.
Yeah.
So that is the only way people can adopt. So when
Yeah.
you have second thoughts, when you have thoughts like how I said, and you're thinking about genes, Khoon, my in-laws, my mother, my father, adoption is not for you. I'm not saying these people don't need to be included. But
Yeah.
what happens is adoption is between the parents. If
Right.
the parents have decided, right, you have to talk to your in-laws or your own,
Yeah.
parents, that
Yeah.
this is it. This is what I want to do, and
Yeah.
it is how, with the confidence you have,
Yeah.
that they will also fall in line. If
Yeah.
you are hesitant, they know it, so they it's always like that, no, when they see a small weakness somewhere, people kind of go after it. So the confidence with which you say that I am going to adopt, and this is something we did, we actually didn't tell our parents till when I think our son was going to come home, like in 2-3 months or so, and
Wow.
we informed them. We didn't even take permission. A
Yeah.
lot of that happens, right? We are still, parents ka permission
Yeah.
chahiye and all that. We just informed them. We said we're going to adopt. Maybe in the next 2-3 months we'll have a new child home. That's
Yeah.
all we said,
Yeah.
right? So I think it's just the confidence with which you do, you take to adoption is all that matters. The myths, the blood, the gene, genetic traits, what happens if I think a lot of people also have this. Oh, the parents were begging on the street, so sometimes they do have this, history of the child, right?
Yeah.
And what if the parents were begging? Will my child start begging? Like, where is this coming from?
Yeah.
Right? So, especially older children, we work with older children a lot,
Yeah.
right? Our work itself is older children adoption. And a lot of times people expect magic,
Yeah.
right? The child will come home and will be like a doll. They'll do everything we say, etc.
Yeah.
It can't happen like that. You need to work to
Right.
become a parent, to be a parent. It is not easy,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't matter adopted or not.
Yeah.
Parenting is a challenge in these days.
Yeah.
Can we look at it like that, right? And it is rewarding. We
Yeah.
also have to look at it. It is challenging, but it is rewarding,
Yeah.
right? So you have to see both sides of it. So if anybody out there listening, if you want to adopt, please, I think you just go ahead and register, because there is no better way of parenting than adoption.
But Meera, what I'm now thinking about, you touched upon older children and your work is with older children.
Yes.
How does it work with them? I can understand because I am a parent not an adoptive one, but I am a parent, so I can
True.
understand the parents' perspective. What about the
Yes.
children? How does it work with them? They are going into a new home, and
Yes.
most probably a new culture, new lifestyle altogether. So, how are they prepared, or what
Yes.
happens?
Very important question. So that is the preparation which is less right now in India.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully, when we get funds, we want to expand that program, because I think child preparation is one of the most important thing. Even Kara can address it and should address it in a way which helps the child integrate with the family better,
Right.
right? So with differences, what you talk about culture, language, etc., I do believe that children are very resilient.
Hmm.
They will adjust. But
Yeah.
the parent is here where needs more preparation than the child,
Yeah.
because we are in a hurry. This is
Right.
an instant gratification world. Everything is Instagram, this, that, everything is instant,
Yeah.
right? We also expect, let's say, a 12-year-old who is coming home for the first time after maybe living 4 or 5 years in a shelter. We expect that child to become a turnkey doll,
Right.
right? We expect
Yeah.
them to adjust. We expect them to eat our food. We expect them to do well in academics. We expect them to behave very well.
Yeah.
You tell me, is that even possible for anybody,
No. When you come home
right?
when you get home after a marriage, like
Yes,
in a different home,
exactly. Yes,
that's
you're
so
adopting
difficult.
an older child.
Yeah.
I call marriage like an adoption. You're
Yeah.
adopting a 25, 30 something.
Yeah.
And how did you adjust? You
Yeah.
learned about each other. Came to some adjustment, some compromise. You did a lot of things, lot of work.
Right.
It
Right.
is the same with a child who is older than 6 or 7.
Yeah.
You have to put in some work,
Yeah.
right? And that most parents sometimes want a very quick solution,
Yeah.
right? See, every child is individual. Every child is a unique child, unique human being. Can you look at them like that, right? So there is work to be done in the space of parent preparation also. We actually conduct every second Saturday, we conduct a parent preparation session. It's virtual, online.
Yeah.
We hope parents join. We talk about older children, bonding, attachment, academics, trauma. We talk about a lot of things, teenage, right? The next session is about teenagers.
Okay.
So it is about how do you put in your work, because you're coming back to the same place. I think a lot of
Yeah.
parents don't understand displacement. You're
Yes.
coming back to the same place, but the child is getting displaced, and
Yes.
displacement can cause issues in the beginning,
Right.
right? So how do we deal with that? I think parents need to be prepared too. The children need to be prepared, but the children do not need to be prepared for how to behave,
Yeah.
follow the culture.
Yeah.
No, the
Yeah.
children need to be prepared that where you're going is your home, that
Yeah.
is your family, that is a safe space. You
Right.
should trust the people who are there. You should trust the parents who are adopting you. And if you want to share something, you should feel free to share. If it is good, bad, ugly, whatever it is, they are your safe space. Now you're going from one safe space, which was your first home, to the second safe space, which is your permanent home.
Yeah.
That is how children need to be prepared,
Yeah.
right? But CCI, the childcare institutions, do not know how to prepare children,
Yeah.
right? We do not have proper counselors.
Hmm.
So we need to put that effort to,
Hmm.
prepare these children as well. And as I said, God willing, we get funds. We want to go all out on these programs, at least in the 3 states we work in, because
Right.
it's becoming very, very important. So
Right.
that's how you prepare a older child to go into adoption, right? Benefits of a family. What happens when you're in a family? How
Yeah.
do you feel belonged in a family? How
Right.
do you get individual attention in a family?
Yeah.
Right? Good academics, good colleges, whatever it is. A lifelong sense of support.
Yes.
That
Belonging.
is what belonging is, the most important thing for any human being.
Yes.
Right? Today in India, we do not even have a count of care leavers. Care leavers are children who come out of institutions. There are a lot of organizations working on this. I think Care Leavers Inner Circle, the Indian Aftercare Network. There are so many of these working, but it is not enough,
Yeah.
because we are all NGOs. We can only work in certain areas.
Yeah.
How do we reach pan India?
Yeah.
Right? There must be thousands of care leavers who struggled, through their life. After 18, they come out of institution, no guidance, no support.
Yeah.
Imagine if they had a family,
Yeah.
if they were put in the pool much, much earlier and they
Yeah.
got adopted.
Right.
That's what we are trying to do. So we want to prepare children, and I think the parent preparation sessions are helping
Yeah.
because parents need to be more prepared than the children. That is our constant rhetoric. Yeah.
Yeah. And Mira, I want to also know, however much we say that, okay, when we are adopting, the only thing we look for is a child, not their profile, so to say. But I'm
Mhm.
sure when it comes to individual pairings and, matching of the
Mhm.
child and the parents, prospective parents, there must be some things which come into play, like where they are not accepted, or, I don't know what's the actual term for it, when you don't accept the matched child. So
Okay.
how do factors like age and health indicators, gender, influence all these things, a child's chance to be adopted?
Okay, great. So everything today, I think I have to tell you, on the Carings portal, everything is algorithm driven.
Yeah.
Okay, so parents, when they register, prospective parents, when they register, they have to give their preferences.
Yeah.
So preferences means gender, age, and age generally automatically comes based on the composite age of the parents or the single parent, right? And the zone where
Mhm.
you want to adopt from, and do you want to adopt siblings, do you want to adopt a healthy child or a special needs child. So there are set of preferences they are asked to fill. So whenever a child is matched with a parent, it is based on the preferences the parent is given.
Right.
Okay, so when you talk about the health indicators, etc., every parent, so there is a referral system. So parent get referred a child. So they don't see
Right.
a child and say, okay, I have to choose this child. It is not
Yeah.
done. It is a referral because it is algorithm, it is system driven. There is a child who came into the pool or next pool. There's a parent waiting for the same preferences. They are matched and the parent gets a referral. Now it's up to the parent. They look at the child study report, which we talked about, and the medical examination report, and see if this is a child they want to reserve.
Right.
Okay, that's the first step. Okay, they have 48 hours to reserve a child.
Right.
So they have to look at this, and sometimes they're allowed to talk to a specialized adoption agency or the CCI where the child is residing,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that to understand a little bit more about the child, but not often, right?
Yeah.
After 48 hours, if they don't reserve, then the child is referred to the next waiting parent.
Sure.
Same this thing. But if the parent decides to go ahead, they have to reserve the child. That means we are reserving the child. Please do not refer the child to anybody else.
Right.
Okay. And then they are given 30 days to go where the child is and look at the child, meet the child, and get more information about the child. Once they reserve, they can actually have video calls with the child
Oh, wow.
and ask more information from the institution where the child is living about the child. And if they want to, some parents, especially babies, when they adopt, they do want to do some extra medical tests and all that for the child, right? Which we believe is unnecessary. If you reserved, looked at it and said okay. But well, there are parents, and I don't blame them, I'm not judging them, but we don't recommend them as an organization, as an individuals, three of us as co-founders, we don't recommend getting extra medical tests done for the child. But sometimes the parents will go where the child is and get the medical tests done by themselves. And then you can bring home the child by signing a agreement, pre-adoption
Right.
foster agreement. So
Right.
the indicators, this thing, everything is given to them.
Yeah.
It's quite a it's quite a transparent system if the childcare institution is doing its job correctly by
Right.
preparing the child study report properly, by preparing the medical examination report properly. It is, if all of it is clear, then it's quite transparent,
Yeah.
right? So when you talk about health indicators, now I think Kara has also introduced that for children 0 to 6 years, the medical examination report should be signed by the chief medical officer of the district.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay, so it has become stronger, right?
Right.
So the chief medical officer will look at this thing, hopefully. they ask the right questions if it is not done. All that is, in place. For
Yeah.
6 to 18 years, well, the medical examination report is done only if the child reaches the adoption pool or
Right.
is eligible for adoption declared. So we don't constantly give, do the medical exam. The law does say that every 6 months you're supposed to do a medical examination of every child in an institution, but it's not done. But at least for the children who are in the pool, they have to do it every 6 months so that it stays current.
Right. Right.
Right. So the parents can see everything, and if they have doubts or questions, they can ask the institution to give more information and make an informed decision. I know a lot of parents have said 48 hours, Meera, how soon can we make a decision? I'm like,
Yeah.
well, that's the
So it,
system because you don't want the child to wait longer,
yeah. Yeah.
be referred to another parent.
Yeah.
So sometimes even 30 days will not look enough.
Yeah.
But that is the system, and you have to respect
Yeah.
that.
And you talked about social and cultural barriers to adoption as such. But what I want to know from you, Meera, is that is there, I mean, barring now coming to parents who want to adopt, is
Yeah.
there a barrier? Is there a social or cultural barrier or a resistance to adopt older children or children with special needs? How do you see that?
Thanks, Neha, for asking that. Yes, because a lot of parents think one is they can't bond with an older child. It's too much work, is how they
Right.
put it.
Right.
Okay, so there are, yes. I'm not going to say. See, every stage of a child is too much work. I won't call it work.
Yeah.
There is a certain amount of work. When the child is younger, you say, oh, child is eating properly, is pooping properly, we have to change the diaper, is the child sleeping, get up in the night feeds, there's so many things. Right? As the child slowly grows older, developmental, is the child walking, crawling, everything. So there is a constant um, monitoring, or,
Yeah.
as a parent, you're constantly working to see if your child is doing what they are supposed to do,
Right.
right? So lot of parents believe that an older child will not bond, right? And that is it's I won't say it's a, I don't know if it is a cultural barrier, but it is a myth.
Yeah.
I will say it is a myth, right? And because we believe that older child as you adopt is more aware,
Mm.
right? And when they come home, yes, they will take some time to bond and
Mm.
become integrated into the family. But once done, imagine the reward you get
Yeah.
once you see that child grow into a beautiful adult,
Yeah.
and you're guiding that child. You're
Yeah.
responsible for guiding a human being to go into adulthood confidently,
Yeah.
and you are giving the support, right? So I think the perspective has to change.
Mm.
Okay, and with some amount of help, definitely, I think most parents who want to adopt a younger child should look at adopting an older child.
Yeah.
And we are saying organizations like us are there to help,
Yeah.
right? We counsel, we give you sessions, you can have one-on-one counsel, you can do a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
And to handhold. We're also saying we'll handhold you for the next 6 months to a year,
Yeah.
right? So you can come with a unique problem the older child has, and we are saying that we will tell you how to know. See, it's also, there's no one standard formula for older children.
Right.
Every
Right.
child is unique. So you come with us. No, overall, we'll give you a standard, this one, what to look out for. But you need personal counseling, come to us, we'll do that.
Yeah.
Right. So the younger children, yes, as a baby, when you bring home, they don't know much. So you're bonding with them, easily is how you look at it. Right. And initially, yes, because what do they need is more individual attention, hugs, kisses, a lot of affection, etc. So there is that fear that my child will not bond with me if I bring home an older child. So I think that is a major part of the adjustment myth there is,
Yeah.
right? I'll tell you this thing about parents who aren't that old. They're about 36, 37, right? And they registered on Kara to adopt and decided to adopt a 13-year-old. And they
Wow.
had to go to the steering committee because the age gap is less, etc. But they went, they adopted. And
Mm.
they said that was the best thing that happened. Yes, there were challenges. Yes, there were adjustment issues.
Mm.
But they said that is the seeing the child flower now and on blossom in ways they can't even explain is, they said, is the most rewarding thing they had.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that is what we are looking for.
Yeah.
That is what we are saying can happen.
Mm, mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think the myth that a younger child cannot bond is stuck to a lot of people's minds.
Yeah.
And they are, and see what happens when this is there, right? Lot of illegal things are done.
Right.
Right. So किसी ने बोल दिया hospital में, there is a child, that mother doesn't want the child, I'll go bring home the child. The
Yeah.
doctor is a good friend.
Yeah.
That's purely illegal. After, even after 5 years, if the government knows you've done this, they will not hesitate taking the child. And
Mm.
the child suffers.
Yeah.
Right. So I think and I respect the parents who want to adopt younger children, no doubt at all. But there are parents who are 42, 44, 45, but still want to adopt a 3-month-old. I think they can expand their horizon and look at, little older children. So that's what we kind of recommend and offer counseling. We don't force them, but
Yeah.
we do recommend and offer counseling. So that's the whole. But the myth is this: I think older children will not bond easily. They're a lot of work. They're very challenging, right? What happens when they reach teenage? How will we handle them? Just
Yeah.
like how you handle other teenagers,
Yeah.
that's the whole idea. So
Yeah.
those are some of the barriers which are stopping people from adopting. Uh, In terms of cultural barrier, Neha, I don't think we should have any. I've
Yeah.
known people in Telangana adopt, parents in Telangana adopt from Odisha,
Mm.
and they were, I think, siblings, older children, 11, 12, 13, and they are great now. Right.
Mm.
It is about, see, and this we said it in our sessions also. So what happens is when you're bringing home a child, an older child, right? Okay, the child only speaks Hindi.
Mm.
You expect the child to learn your language,
Mm.
but can you do the same for the
Yeah.
child?
Yeah.
Before the child comes home, can you learn a few sentences of the language they're going to speak in?
Yeah.
Because children pick up languages very fast.
No.
Can you make them comfortable by learning a few sentences which are very, very, important?
Yeah.
And then slowly, I'm sure the child listening to you guys talking, the parents talking, the child picks up the language. So I
Right.
think those limitations which we think are very big,
Mm.
creates a big barrier.
Yeah.
Right? These are small things. I feel language is the least thing you should do. Culture is the last thing. Because, yes, they might have their culture, they might have their own, maybe, sometimes. And I've heard this that the child was brought up in the Islamic religion and Hindus adopt them. Give the child the space, let
Yeah.
them practice. What
Yeah.
is wrong? Right?
Yes.
You've opened your mind to adoption,
Yeah.
please open your mind to religion, right?
Yeah.
That's all we are saying. So these are real problems. I'm not denying that, but I think with some help, guidance, support, these barriers can be removed.
Yeah. I want to also talk about your safe surrender campaign, Meera. That work sounds like so much, so much work actually. And what tell us, what does this campaign aim to do?
So what happens is today, and I have alerts in my system, and my husband does say I should stop those alerts because it gives me horrible news. But I do say that, we need to know, right?
Yeah.
That every day I have at least 4 to 5 news articles which talk about child abandonment.
Yeah.
Okay. And they're abandoned in God-forsaken places, abandoned cruelly, and abandoned unsafely,
Right.
right? Unhygiene. And a lot of these children grow up to have trauma, to have various diseases because they're abandoned like in dustbins, toilets. You ask me, I will tell you so many places they've found to abandon children.
Yeah.
Okay. So we are saying instead of doing the unsafe abandonment, can you safely surrender the child? It
Right.
is a law, right? Juvenile Justice Act, if anybody, who's listening, wants to look up the act, it is Juvenile Justice Act, Section 35
Hmm.
talks about how a parent or a guardian can safely surrender the child in an institution in
Right.
front of a child welfare committee, and the child becomes the ward of the state.
Right.
And what happens when the child is surrendered is 60 days reconsideration time is given in case the parents or the guardians change their mind. They can come and claim the child back. But after 60 days, the child goes into the legal adoption pool and gets adopted,
It's as simple as that.
right? It is as simple as that. But can you consider surrendering instead of abandoning? Because abandonment, again, is a big process,
Yeah.
right? Abandonment, there's a newspaper, this thing, the police has to do this, you have to do that. So can you surrender the child? You don't want the child or you don't want to raise the child. Agreed. But can you do the right by the child,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? And I think the heartbreaking stories which come into light is not, it is so, I think some days I do have tears in my eyes because, and this was, I think, last week, there was a news article where an infant was bitten so much by a dog. Okay. And how do you reconcile with the fact that there are humans living like this who abandon in a place where there are dogs and dogs are chewing up the baby, and it is so heartrending,
Yeah.
right? So can you do right by the child?
Yeah.
You've done right by yourself that you don't want the child, so you abandon it. But can you do right by the child? And the
Yeah.
child will have a good future, right? Will get into the pool and get adopted. And that younger baby will definitely get adopted, right? It actually, the this thing is, you put a child of 3 months to 4 months old today, they get reserved by evening.
Right.
It is so quick because so many parents are waiting. So
Right.
can you just do right by the child, right?
Yeah.
Unsafe abandonment is so horrible for the child. So horrible. Some children turn into special needs children just because they are unsafely abandoned and they don't get adopted
Yeah.
because we don't adopt special needs. And that is a question you had asked last time. I'm so sorry about that. I can touch upon it as we talk here.
Yeah.
Um, the campaign is important because, believe you me, I know, even if I ask my neighbor, they do not know that a surrender law exists.
Yeah.
We believe every citizen of India should know this law.
Yeah.
Every citizen at least over 18. In fact, below 18 should also know because there are a lot of minors who are getting pregnant,
Yeah.
right? It could be incest, it could be sexual assault, it could be anything. They also need to know
Yeah.
that you can, surrender the child.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to hold you responsible,
Yeah.
right? So every citizen should know that this law is existing and surrendering is the best option.
Yeah.
Right. In fact, lot of agencies, specialized adoption agencies, I think I don't remember, I think in Kerala, one of the districts, they also have cradles in front of police stations, fire
Wow.
stations, hospitals, right? So that if you don't want to identify, it's okay. But can you please safely abandon the child, right? Instead of surrendering, can you
Yeah.
safely abandon the child?
Yeah.
Right? They have a bell which rings when something, a child is put into the cradle and they come and take the child back. So I think these are some methods which the government is also trying to do, but there is not enough focus on safe surrender.
Yeah. Yeah.
It needs a massive movement like Swachh Bharat or something like that to bring to light.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I am sure nobody knows, and I am talking about my community where I will go, nobody will know, right? And I've talked about it so much,
Yeah.
right? Nobody will know that there is a surrender law, and we need to propagate it more, bring more awareness about it. So that's how the campaign started, the change.org petition started. Because today, if you look at a newspaper, and it is such a shame, right? A newspaper reports this, and great, we are glad the newspaper is reporting. But can they also write that the
There is.
surrender law exists
Yeah.
and children can be surrendered?
Yeah.
As a responsible media, can we also do that? So we also did the change.org, this thing. But see, these are all short-term measures.
Yes.
We did the change.org one. I think a couple of newspapers said they will be very responsible. They put it for about 2 months. After that, they stop.
And what
Right.
it
So
takes, what extra does it take to print one
four
more
lines.
thing?
And we gave them the lines to print also. We said, you keep it in your template. All you have to do is attach it. Right. So just 4 lines. Doesn't take long.
Yeah.
So that is the whole, the fact that we don't look at children as children, right? As human beings. If you
Yeah.
look at, and I'm saying this again on a public platform. I do believe that our society respects children very less,
Yeah.
right? We don't treat them as individuals.
Yeah.
And that is a problem. A basic problem is that, oh, you to bacha hai. No, I think you have to learn to listen to children, right? And because we don't treat children as individuals, we don't treat them with respect. We think, okay, infant hai, a few hours it's born, so let's throw it away. But the pain the infant is going through,
Yeah.
can you even imagine? Right? In fields, in bushes, God-forsaken places, really, Neha. I think the news sometimes drives me to think, what have we become as a society?
Yeah.
Right? So we need a massive movement and massive movement to have these cradles everywhere in all districts, not just one district of Kerala. We need it in all the districts, 800 districts in India. Can
Yeah.
we have those? Right? Can we have no CCTV cameras before
Yeah.
this cradle?
Yeah.
Because if you have CCTV camera, what's the big point?
Yes.
Right? So all those are some measures which we can, take and educate Anganwadi teachers, Anganwadi workers, Asha workers
Yeah.
about this law. I'll tell you, the Anganwadi teachers or the Asha workers also do not know about this.
Yeah.
We went and this was early 2020, actually. We went and trained about almost 600 Anganwadi teachers
Wow.
and Asha workers about this. And they were so surprised. We
Yeah.
need a massive movement. See, for us to do everything is we need funds to do all this, right? It just can't be, it's not a sustainable method,
Right.
right? And we will continue to put out posts on safe surrender. And there is another organization that works, which is called Palona.
Okay.
uh, and they work, it's called Palona, it's a
Hmm.
Hindi word, right?
Yeah.
So they work also with surrender campaigns, and they also work for a, see, right now, I think they work for an Infant Protection Act as well. They work on in that space. They want a separate Protection Act because abandonment or, in fact, infanticide, killing a small child carries probably about 6, 7 years or less, or 3 years of imprisonment, nothing more,
Hmm.
right? So they're also fighting for that. But we have somebody in arms with us to work on that,
Right.
and we do support each other. But there is a lot more to be done. Just not two organizations working on this. There's so much more to be done, and we have actually been bringing this up with Kara that some massive movement has to happen.
Right.
Right, a massive movement has to happen. Otherwise, these small campaigns which we run reach a small set of people. It
Right.
needs to reach, grassroots level,
Yes.
all kinds of people. So
Right.
we do work with certain volunteers who actually put these posters up in the local language. In some communities, they go to the slum areas, put it up, and all that.
Yeah.
Um, but I do feel it's not enough.
Yeah.
It's not enough. Yeah.
You are saying all of this, and again, I'm more interested. You're talking about systemic change, and I know how important that is. But because you work with so many individuals, so to say, on ground, is there one story or two stories that you can talk about which highlights the importance of this work, this safe surrender campaign? How it can benefit or how it has benefited.
Sure, I think there's this. We have actually facilitated a lot of surrenders. When
Mm,
I say facilitated surrenders through our work, and this is, there are more stories like these. I will just say in general what has
yeah.
happened with these because, few children we kind of facilitated the surrender. They were living in shelters for a long time. Okay. And when we entered the system and we digitized the data, and our system said these children should be recommended for adoption, we looked at the child's case history and saw that this child had relatives,
Mm,
right? And that's why the system essentially, the district child protection unit, everybody was ignoring. But then none of these relatives, right? The child is an orphan, but none of these relatives were visiting the child.
yeah,
They were not visiting. That means they're unwilling to raise the child, right?
sure.
So our social workers actually traced the family, right, and went to their house and talked to them about surrender and talked to them about benefits of what a bright future the child will have if they got adopted. And then brought them in front of the CWC and had them surrender the child.
Wow.
And the child went into adoption. And actually, the child reached the adoption pool and got adopted also.
Wow. Yeah.
Right. So there are quite a few stories like this where we facilitated surrender because nobody wants to do that extra work.
Right.
Nobody wants to go and say that, okay, this child can be surrendered.
Yeah.
Nobody knows that this
Nobody
child can
knows.
be surrendered.
Yeah.
Right. So that is the education we do. And what we are doing, I think, now is because every CCI needs to know this.
Yeah.
Every childcare institution needs to know this. So when somebody comes to admit and says that, okay, both parents have died, I'm the uncle, mama, mommy, chachi, whatever, I'm admitting, we are telling the CCI that can you also please inform them about the surrender option?
Yeah.
Right then and there when they come to admit. A few
Right.
CCIs do it, few don't. But that is the power of information,
Yes.
right? If they were informed, and yes, some parents or guardians will say, no, I don't want to surrender, but I'll come and visit.
Yeah.
That's fine too. But we have to give them that information
Right.
that, this is possible and the child will have a better future.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So these stories, I think we have about 15 or 16 surrenders we've facilitated so
Wow.
far.
And Meera,
Yeah.
you talk about grassroots, you talk about systemic change at the policy level. What I am also thinking about is myself as a citizen of this country, as a member of society. What is there something that people like me can do to ensure that children aren't abandoned in unsafe conditions?
Absolutely, absolutely. So if you live in a community, you can talk about safe surrender in your community. Talk to your house help, talk to your person who's driving your car, because all these people don't know that,
Right.
right?
We don't know
Talk to
that.
them. Exactly. So
Yeah.
talk to them about it, right? In your community, arrange a meeting and talk about safe surrender. Say that this is existing. Find out find out the closest child welfare committee office and tell them that you can go and surrender the child here, or find out the closest specialized adoption agency and tell them you can go and surrender in this place. So there are so many things you can do as a individual also. So
Right.
talking about it is how awareness spreads.
Right.
Constantly talking about it, right?
Right.
So we do this with our volunteers. We give them collaterals,
Mm.
right? Where we give them the posters as a soft copy, and we say that you can go and pin these posts everywhere. Hand out the flyer, to motorists or to anybody. Talk to them about it. Traffic signal.
Yeah.
Stand with this thing about did you know safe surrender for a law was is a law prevent unsafe child abandonment.
Yes.
So things like that are something every individual can do. Right?
Yeah.
Every individual can do. Yes.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
Meera, I have been talking about individual stories a lot, but I'm really, really interested because you and your team work directly with children and their families. So, can you share one story with us which has deeply moved you and maybe made you realize this is what I do and this is why I do what I do?
So this is one story which journey of a child which is very close to my heart, and this has happened recently. So this child was I will not name states or
Yes,
the
please.
child's name or districts. I will talk generic because I'm not allowed to. So this child was admitted to the childcare institution when I will talk about the gender when she was about 7 years old, and she was admitted by a community. Her
Mm.
parents had passed away, and a community brought and admitted her into the CCI. And because a community admitted, and nobody processed at that time. This was like 10 years back. Nobody even knew that children age 7 can go into adoption. So nobody processed her for adoption. Okay, so she stayed for 10 long years, and when
Wow.
she turned 17, that's when we entered the district to work,
Yeah.
and we identified her for adoption, and we worked with the CWC, and she was put in the pool, I think, when she was about 17 and years and 4 months.
Wow.
Okay. And believe it or not, just short of 2 months short of her 18th birthday, she was reserved by by parents. Okay. And but look at the luck, right? When she was reserved by a parent and all the pre-adoption foster care agreement was also signed, The parents said they will take her home, but she had 2 months of no, a course she was doing,
Yeah.
right? Which she wanted to finish. And so the parents said, okay, and they kept coming and visiting her and all that. But suddenly, the community which left her in the CCI spoke to some stepbrother or step relative saying that they are giving away this girl for adoption. You go and claim the girl back.
Oh.
And that stepbrother in the community came and fought with the district child protection unit and the child welfare committee that they want to take the child girl back.
Oh.
And I think I've had numerous calls with this district child protection unit and the child welfare committee about what they can do, and do they have any rights? Should they send the girl back to this community? And my team member was on the ground, and both of us, I think, said no way this girl can go back to the community
Yeah.
because there is some property, something like that, and they want to get her married. There will be so many other things. We
Yeah.
don't know what they want to do with the girl. They
Yeah.
didn't visit her. She did not even know they existed in 10 years,
Yeah.
right? And then, unfortunately or fortunately, the child turned 18. Now
Yeah.
he's an adult. Now
Yes.
her consent is needed,
Yes.
right? So when they asked the girl, and the district child protection unit actually counseled the girl and presented both the aspects of the lives, what life you will have when you go into one or the other. She chose the parents. Okay. And I think this was last month that she went home after
Wow.
all the paperwork was done, and she got the adoption order and she's with her parents now. And I think that even today gives me goosebumps that
Yes.
this child struggled so much. And I think I'm so proud of my team, and I'm so proud of the district child protection unit and the child welfare committee of that district,
Yeah.
having worked so much for that one child, right?
Yes.
Even though she was 17, right?
Yes.
Even though she turned 18, they kept at it, right? And I think, and they needed a lot of support, and we supported that. We said, if you want, we'll come and talk to these people, right?
Yeah.
They said, no, then it'll become too, so they understood that it'll become too much for the NGO to talk to the parents and all, not parents, step brother or somebody.
Yeah.
So these stories are not uncommon,
Yes.
right? But this was a great success story for us because the child also, or the young adult also chose wisely,
Yes.
right? She also chose to go into a family, and the parents waited,
Yes.
right? The parents were considerate enough to wait for
Yes.
all these things to be, sorted out. Where do
Yes.
you find people like that, right? So I think it is also because the child was older,
Yes.
right? 17 years, and it is so heartwarming to find this, that there are people who want to adopt a 17-year-old, and this is India.
Yes.
Right. So I think it was a double this thing for us. I think these are some of the stories, Neha, which I think just give us the fact that yes, what we are doing is right, and
Yes.
we have to do this work.
Yes.
Well, I think we'll continue to do it because, and we are an NGO. At the end of the day, we need funds, and without funds, we can't sustain a team working out there on the field. Because our team, to let you know the kind of work our team does, our team in the 3 states we work in, they go to every childcare institution in every district of the state and
Wow.
digitize children and do the work. Right. They do follow-ups, they go see. So the model of work might be different, but we keep following up. What happened? Did process this child? Why are you not reviewing this child? Right? Can you review this child today? The child is growing older. So there's a constant intensity to the work.
Yes.
And this comes only with the passion and dedication we can have of these 20 people who are working on the field today. And I'm ever grateful for all these team members who constantly do this day in and day out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah,
Absolutely.
we need funds to, sustain this kind of work because it is hard work, travel intensive, because they travel from district to district, CCI to CCI, office to office. So there are different offices they have to visit, police stations they have to visit. So there is a constant travel, and, but they all do it with a smile, and with
Yeah.
the challenges we have with the government, with the district units, everything. So at the end of the day, we are an NGO, so we need funds. So if people are listening, I would request people to visit our donate page and donate to our cause, wic.in/donate. If you can put up on your message
Yes.
also, that will be great.
Yeah, that was going to be my last question to you, but I will come to that when we come to the end of the interview. But
Yeah.
what I'm interested to know your perspective about also is, Meera, if someone is listening and they are considering adoption, but as you said, they're hesitant or they're not ready yet, what would you say to them?
I would say get counseling. There are
Mm,
a lot of counseling, online counseling now that happens. Even Kara gives counseling,
yeah,
right? So get counseling, right? If you're still on the fence, kind of thinking, should I, shouldn't I? And but you want to. See,
yeah,
there is that, the feeling, right? You want to, but then you're kind of having questions about it. Get counseling, please. I think that is the most which will clear your mind about whether you're ready for it or not.
yeah.
Okay, so get a good counselor who can counsel you specifically on this, right? We counsel parents, but we tend to counsel parents who are adopting older children more.
Yes,
But that said, we don't stop anybody from reaching out to us. If they want counseling, we will counsel. But I think every state actually seems to have some set of counselors who are working specifically on this, right? Who will counsel. And some of the counseling options you have, some of the what do you call NGOs which work for this.
yeah.
I think Families of Joy is one who counsel parents, even from with young children, old children, and I think Padme.in is another one who counsel, and I think Joy of Adoption is another option they have. So get counseling. I
Oh,
think when you're considering, get counseling and read a lot. I think now there is so much information, there's so much literature available, right,
yeah,
about adoption. Read, prepare. I think that's the only thing a parent can do when they're considering also, right?
right.
And I keep joking with people. When we adopted, there was absolutely no literature. This
Yeah,
was in 2007, right? Adoption was new. So when we brought home our child, everybody is looking, kahan se aa gaya bachcha types, So
yeah,
it is so new for people. And yeah, I know of people who adopted much earlier in 1990s also. I can imagine there was, at least I think when we adopted, people knew the spelling of adoption, तभी तो किसी को वो भी नहीं मालूम रहेगा.
yeah,
But I think there was no literature, right?
yeah,
There were no books.
yeah,
Now I think books are aplenty. There is so much literature out there. Connected Parent, Home for Choco. I think there's so many books like that, right? To prepare yourself if you bring home the child. But I think there is a lot of information there, and counseling is the best thing you can do for yourself.
yeah.
Both husband and wife can get on, or if you're single, you can get on to a counselor and get information.
And Meera, people who are not looking to adopt, can they
Mhm.
still contribute to the cause?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, more than half of our this one is like that. We are like half half. So we don't know, right? Some of the donors who adopt are not probably adoptive parents.
Yeah.
Means who are not looking to adopt, who are not adoptive parents. Anybody willing to donate, please donate.
And
Every bit helps.
and
Yeah.
I'm also interested, Meera, again going back to the adoption, the life cycle of it. What can families do to ensure that the adopted children feel secure and included?
Okay. So there are two aspects to this. So one, when you're adopting as a child, right, as a baby,
Yes.
no small baby, there is a different aspect to it because then disclosure becomes important. How you are going to talk to the child about their adoption becomes important. A lot of parents think it is not important. Please, please, please. The child needs to know that they were adopted. And I say they were adopted. Never use are adopted. They
Hmm.
were adopted. It's in past tense, and once the child was adopted, you are a parent, the child is a child.
Yes.
You don't go around introducing this is my adopted child, right? Never,
Yeah.
right? So, so I think those are the considerations you have, and do not hide adoption. It's not right by the child or by yourself, right? The child will come to know one way
Hmm.
or the other. And at some point, I think I had counseled a parent who told the child was adopted when the child was 9.
Oh.
They brought home the child very early, like when she was about 4 months. But they told her when she was 9, a very difficult age to know about adoption. Right. So disclosure goes hand in hand with positive identity.
Hmm.
Okay. So you don't disclose, that means you are saying that you're robbing the child of part of the identity,
Yeah. So
right?
what's
A
the
lot of
right way?
parents, day one,
Day
day
one.
one, just start telling stories in whichever way you want to,
Mm,
even if the child is 4 months.
yeah.
Okay, so our son was 6 months when we adopted, and I used to tell him a night bedtime story. It was called His Name and Story every day until he was 2. And then he said, I don't want this story anymore.
Yeah.
He actually, in his own words, said, no story.
Hmm.
So he's integrated it,
Yes.
right? We used to celebrate his, even now we celebrate, but not in a
Hmm.
pompous way, homecoming day,
Yes.
right? A birthday and a homecoming day. So
Hmm.
these are small things which you can continue to do as a lot of parents don't like to do the homecoming day. Fair enough. Whatever works for you,
Yeah.
right? Whatever works for the parent. Find your groove with the child.
Yes.
But day one, you have to start telling the child,
Yes.
right? Some people wait 5 years, 6 years. I don't believe that is correct. Day one, bring home the child, start making up stories, start creating stories in a way which is age appropriate,
Yeah.
right? We think, what will a 3-month-old understand? No, I'm sorry to say, they understand everything. So
Hmm.
just keep telling them stories, read them books.
Hmm.
Nowadays, small children books are available, very
Yeah.
picturesque books, one sentence books. Bring books, read them a story every night, right? So start early.
Hmm.
Start early. And anyway, when the child is older and they get adopted, they know they are adopted. They were adopted, whatever, right? So that is one. And see, sorry, I think I lost my train of thought. uh, what was it that you started with?
I started with how do you ensure that the children, adoptive children, feel
Children
included?
bonded and
Yes, bond.
correct, correct. So one is that it's a positive identity you have to create right from the beginning, and don't hide that no, they were adopted. If somebody see, somebody will not ask unless they know your
Right.
background, and they
Right.
might ask questions, right? To tell them basic this thing about how much you can share.
Yeah.
Lot of it is the child's story,
Yeah.
right? Let the child tell it,
Hmm.
okay, when the child grows into an adult. But you share as much as you can,
Yes.
okay? And the same thing with the child. When does the child become bonded and included? So for younger children, the bonding is a little bit more easier,
Yes.
okay? But as the child grows older and you're bringing home the child, do small chores with them, right? Include them in chores.
Hmm.
No, please, can you help me? Will you peel this? Will you do this? Will you set the table?
Hmm.
Right? Small chores to feel them included in the family.
Yeah.
Right? And also, I think what happens when we are talking to the child, we're always asking the child, what do you like? Do you
Hmm.
like this? Do you like that? Instead, can you also share what you like?
Hmm.
Right? You see, it's important you know the child's like, but it's also important for the child to know what you like.
Yeah.
Right? How do they feel included?
Yeah.
So I think that bonding and what you create is about how much you're also willing to share.
Yes.
Tell the child what you like, what you dislike. Go on walks with the child. Go, to maybe movies with the child. Don't buy the child a gadget and think that is parenting.
Hmm.
Please, I think that's the last thing we should do in any age of the child.
Yes.
We can't think that is bonding.
Hmm.
Okay, and this we specifically tell parents who bring home older children, please do not buy them any gadgets. As soon as they come, give them a phone. No, okay. So they will be on the phone the whole day. Whole
Yeah.
day. Where is the time to bond?
Yes.
Right? So that is not bonding. You are outsourcing it to the gadget. You're
Hmm.
outsourcing parenting and bonding to the gadget.
Yeah.
So you have to make time for the child. That is the only way you will bond. Right.
Yeah.
So there is research which tells this, and I think this is for all parents, not just adoptive parents, is every child needs 20 minutes of undivided attention in a day. That is all.
Yeah.
And we are saying that we can become a parent, but not give 20 minutes of undivided attention.
Yeah.
That is so shameful, right?
Yeah.
So how do we make that 20 minutes?
Yeah.
So one parent said, I have 2 children, Meera. I said, they are 20 minutes each.
Hmm.
You have to do that. You
Yeah.
have to create an activity. It becomes your activity,
Yeah.
right? It becomes and this I say, if you were not a single parent, both parents have to do.
Yeah.
So imagine the child gets 40 plus 40, 160 minutes of, or rather, if they are 2 parents, they get 40 minutes. If there's
Yeah.
one child,
Yeah.
40 minutes of undivided attention.
Yeah.
Isn't that worth bonding with your child?
Absolutely.
Yeah. You,
Absolutely.
you are bringing home a child.
Yeah.
You wanted a child, you brought home the child. So that is something which is non-negotiable. I think time is a primary, currency in parenting.
Yeah.
Any form of parenting. I have a 23 and a 18-year-old. They need time.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how old it is, right? So there needs to be an open communication channel between the parent and this thing. And communication specifically with adoptive children could be that, so they might don't push away the children when they're talking about their birth parents,
Hmm.
right? Don't say, why are you talking about them? Don't, we'll talk some other time. It is very important for them.
Yeah. It's part
It
of their
is important.
identity.
Exactly. So talk to them in a way, age appropriate way, right? And when they understand you support them, they will bond with you more.
Yeah.
So bonding is all about how much they are able to connect to you in the way you are giving them time, presence, everything.
Yeah.
Bonding is not magic, right? It's not something I can buy from a store. You have to create that time to
Yeah.
bond,
Yeah.
right? So, especially, I think as the child grows older, parents, I do feel in this age and day, they are becoming a little bit more, distant
Mm-hmm.
because of the way things are,
Yeah.
right? There is AI, there is Instagram, giving off phone to your child at an early age. Oh, it is safety, it is schoolwork.
Mm.
No, find schools which don't need phones, right? I'm
Yeah.
sure there are plenty of schools. So I think, and a lot of parents have said, Meera, you make it sound so easy. I said, no, it is easy if you put your mind to it,
Right. Right.
right? So giving a child a phone at an early age is something which I wouldn't call bonding. Can
Mm.
you not do that? Right? Bonding just takes time, Neha. At the end of the day, doing activities with the child, which is not involve TV or phone, right? Doing physical activities with the child, right? Specifically running, exercising, cycling, swimming, be whatever is
Yeah.
your group. That is all you can do to bond with your child. And that is even with an older child bonding. It's the
Yeah.
same. It's
Yeah.
the same as the child grows older. They grow into teenagers. We think teenage is difficult, but I beg to differ.
Mm.
Teenage is an age where they are trying to understand more about the world,
Yeah.
right? About themselves, more about themselves. How
Mm.
can you support them in that journey?
Yeah.
It's such a rewarding experience when the child, actually you see them blossom through teenage years,
Yeah.
helping them into adulthood. It is very rewarding, and I've been there twice. So, and it's not like I failed. And
Yeah.
believe you me, I think we fail. We want to be perfect,
Yeah.
right? Please, there is perfect in imperfection also.
Yeah.
And I have fallen, I have failed multiple times.
Mm.
But how do you get up and
Mm.
correct it and
Yeah.
move on with the journey?
Yeah.
Is how nobody comes, children don't come with an instruction manual, do they? There is no instruction manual on parenting.
Yeah.
They've written a lot of literature,
Yeah.
but
But
it is not. It's every individual, right? Every individual situation, child is unique.
yes.
So how are you present in that moment is very, very important. And
Yeah.
yes, I have failed multiple times, and I'm saying it in a public platform. I'm not a perfect parent, but I
Mm.
have a perfect bond with my children.
Wow. That's such a powerful thing to say, Mira.
Yes. So, and I can say it wholeheartedly. I believe that. And you can ask my children, I think they say the same. So, we are not perfect.
Hmm.
Both of us, my husband and I, even our children are not perfect.
Hmm.
I think when we start expecting that perfectness, perfection in children,
Yeah.
right? And we put pressure on ourselves to become a perfect parent.
Yeah.
I think that is the problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to know from you, Mira, what's that one thing you wish more people understood or respected or understood about adoption?
I think adoption is a parenting choice.
Hmm.
Everybody should just understand that,
Yeah.
right? Today, I think it's become more so. I speak to parents where they have one bio child, want to adopt another one. So it is a parenting choice,
Yeah.
right? And I think adoption is the only, see, it is also to look at how do we give a child a family,
Yeah.
right? A sense of belonging, security, trust, and lifelong support.
Yeah.
Adoption is the only thing which can do this. for these children who are living in shelters.
Yeah.
Nothing else will, there are so many temporary rehabilitation methods. But I'm not saying that I have rehabilitated somebody, but I'm talking about these vulnerable children who are living in shelters, who need a family, who should be in a family, but are not. Right?
Yes.
So adoption for me, as always, has been a parenting choice. If you make a choice as a parent that you want to adopt, that is what it is, right? And it is, and there are, I think it is giving fruit to someone who doesn't come from you,
Yeah.
but becomes you at some point.
Wow. Wow. How beautiful. How beautiful is that?
Yes.
Meera, last two questions to you about your
Sure,
work.
sure.
Where
Yes.
do you see WAIC going in the next couple of years?
Tough question. Um, Provided we do get the funding, we do want to scale up our programs of child preparation sessions, right? Child preparation programs to all the 3 states we work in. We want to scale that up and to parent preparation programs in all the state offsite. Now we are doing it online for paucity of funds. We want to increase that. And I think we do want to ensure that all the children eligible for adoption reach the pool
Right.
in all the 3 states, right? Today we have lot of hiccups, right? It all depends on when this officer is available. Did he do the work? No, didn't he do the work? We want that change to become systemic,
Right.
right? Where, as I said, in fact, um, I think I dream of a day where WIC is redundant.
Yeah.
People don't need WIC to work,
Yeah.
right? That is the ultimate dream. But at least if people can, we will still digitize, we will still identify the children. Can you take these children and move them forward?
Yeah.
We'll be there with you. So, and every time I meet a government officer, I say the only thing we are here for is to support you,
Right.
right? For example, to give you a small example, so a child welfare committee that is responsible for these children, if they want to, if let's say in a district there are 1,000 children, right? If they have to evaluate which child is to be, if they have to review a child for adoption evaluation,
Yeah.
they have to go through the cases of 1,000 children.
Yeah.
What WIC does is actually gives them a subset of the 1,000 children,
Mm.
because not all 1,000 children are eligible for adoption. Because children who have parents also live in these shelters.
Yeah.
Children who have living relatives, right, other than parents also live in these shelters.
Yeah.
Okay, so we give them a subset of the data. So the 1,000 can become 300.
Yes.
And we are saying now evaluate the 300.
Yeah.
It's not a tall ask,
Yes.
right? So we are actually making their work, very less, 1/3. Instead of 1,000, you're only looking at 300.
Yes.
So that is the work we do. And we'll continue to do that work and help CWCs and district child protection units as much as we can. And I think with the government intervention of various technology systems they are introducing, I think we will also pivot a little bit to see how we can work along with the government systems.
Yes.
Because today we have our own technology solution. So
Hmm.
we will have to rethink a little bit in the coming 2 years as to how we take this forward, given the government's intervention with technology as well.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
we are looking at various things.
And Meera, last question to you. How can our listeners support WAIC's work?
So one thing I've always mentioned, definitely please donate at waic.in/donate. Any amount is, any small amount is good for us because we have so many programs we run. And you can know more about us, before you donate at wic.in/programs. And the other support, I think, is if you are listening to this and you live in a community, you can go outside in your community, spread word about safe surrender.
Yeah.
Because I think it's a very, very important law which every citizen of India should know. And the other thing I earnestly request people who do donate to shelters, child shelters, do support child shelters. Please don't stop supporting them. But when you do support, can you ask them pertinent questions? How
Hmm.
many children in your institution? How many children are orphaned? How many children are abandoned? Right? If they are orphaned and abandoned, are they being processed for adoption? Do they go into the pool? How many children are eligible?
Yeah.
Please ask them pertinent questions,
Yeah.
so that they also learn from you.
Yeah.
right? Because we are not against supporting child shelters, because in India, unfortunately, we don't have any other system. And children who are growing up in unsafe household, abusive household, etc., and for education support also live in shelters. So please do support shelters. But when you are supporting, can you please ask them some pertinent questions about the children living there?
Yeah.
Because people label their, institutions label their child shelters as orphanages. What
Hmm.
does an orphanage mean? Means
Yeah.
there are only orphans living. Is
Yeah.
that true? If it is true, why aren't they in the pool?
Yes.
So those are some important questions we would like, you to take it forward with you. Yeah.
Thanks, Meera. This has been such an eye-opener conversation, so necessary. Thank you for your time, for your insights, and most importantly, for your unwavering commitment to these children.
Thank you so much, Neha. It was a pleasure. I think I spoke a lot. I hope people got a gist of it. And thank you so much for
And
having me on this program.
I think one of the biggest takeaways from today's conversation for us is that adoption isn't just about finding children a home. It's about ensuring that they have they even have the legal right to even be considered for one. that's
Yes.
that's one thing that I am taking away from this conversation. And for those listening, if adoption has ever crossed your mind, I hope this conversation gives you clarity, courage, and a deeper understanding of what it takes. If you aren't considering adoption but want to help, there are so many ways to get involved. Support organizations like WAIC, advocate for policy changes, educate yourself and others, and most importantly, start conversation that normalize adoption in everyday life. Meera, before we wrap up, I also want to know if listeners want to support WIC work online, where they can find you. Are you on social media?
Yes, we are on all four social media. LinkedIn is our main platform. We are on Facebook as Where Are India's Children. LinkedIn, we are on as Where Are India's Children. On Twitter on Twitter, we are under WIC underscore campaign.
Mm.
And on Insta, we are WIC underscore family for every child. Four.
Yes, got it.
Yes.
Perfect. I'll also put it in our show description. So
Sure. Thank you.
please do check it out, our listeners. And as always, if this conversation resonated with you, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. Let's break the silence around adoption. Let's normalize the idea of forever families in all forms. And let's do our bit to make sure no child gets left behind in the system. If you enjoyed this episode, do follow Parenthood, leave a review, and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. Your support helps bring more of these important stories to light. Meera, thank you again.
Thank you so much, Neha. It was a pleasure.
And to our listeners, take care, keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll see you next time with another incredible guest.